welcome back to my channel. If you are new here and you don't already know, my name is Ali Lo and I'm a foreign student studying here in the Philippines. Now, if you came up to me 6 years ago and told me that I would be teaching English to Koreans, I would have told you that you're insane because it's just not something I would have seen myself doing. But that's exactly what happened. I used to work at McDonald's and I had a couple and then I had a mother and a daughter come in both times and they asked me if I could teach English to them. Now at first I honestly had zero idea of what I was doing. Like they put me in a classroom with kids and they just kind of looked at me and I looked at them and I was like, annyeong. But after a few lessons I eventually got the hang of it and I really enjoyed it. I continued to do it throughout all of college and I can't see my life without it. As an ESL teacher and a language student, I've had to go through a lot of trial and error and the do's and don'ts, and it's been very frustrating and at times very difficult, but in the end, it has been very worth it. So today I'm going to go over all the things that I have learned, and I hope that you learned something from it. Let's get started. From what I have learned, I would say that like 60% of learning a language is like, the vocab, the grammar, the sentence structure, the workbooks. And the other 40% of the battle is speaking the language. When I first got here, I had asked my cousin, how am I going to learn this language? Do I need a workbook? Do I need a teacher? And he literally told me, no, stop that. You don't need any of that. You're going to go to school, you're going to surround yourself with the people here, and you're just going to learn Bisaya and you're going to speak it. And at first I was like, all right, well, that just seems kind of impossible. I have to have some sort of instruction. But in the end, actually most of my lectures were in Bisaya, so I didn't have a choice. And also when I went to duty in the hospital, everyone spoke Bisaya, whether I liked it or not. So it was either sink or swim, and I swam. When I actually first started teaching, I noticed that I had a lot of parents ask me just to sit down with their child and speak like 25 to 50 minutes per day with them. And I didn't quite understand why, but then I realized that they need to speak. They need to pull this grammar and vocab and sentence structure out of their head, out of their memory, and actually put it to use. You might be asking yourself, what could you possibly talk about for 25 to 50 minutes? But you'll learn that there is a lot to talk about. What I like to do is I like to get to know my student at the beginning. I like to know about their family, what they do for fun, what they do with their friends, where they go to school, what their school is like. There's just so much to talk about, and they'll learn a lot of vocab, they'll have a lot of fun, and they're more likely to remember what they learned. I have not met a kid who just wants to sit there for that amount of time just learning vocab and grammar. I definitely would not want to do that because that just sounds really boring, and it is, let's be honest. So find out what your student likes, talk to them about it, learn some vocab, and have some fun, and you'll be on your merry way. The next thing that I learned is that the teacher does not need to talk the entire time. In fact, the teacher should be the one to just kind of lead or direct the conversation. You can do this by asking open-ended questions. So I used to be really uncomfortable with the awkward silences in the classroom, but then I realized that the student needs that silence because they're trying to put that grammar, sentence structure, vocab all into one sentence so that they can reply to you. So make sure that you are giving your student ample time to put all of that together and give you a proper answer. Remember that slow and steady wins the race. The third thing that I want to talk about is vocab. For vocab, I like to learn anywhere between 20 to 30 words per week, and I like to use Quizlet flashcards to memorize them. I really like Quizlet because I can use it anytime and anywhere. I believe spending at least 20 minutes a day on vocab is good enough, and usually when I'm waiting in the car or eating a meal, I open up the app and I just review. What I do not encourage is when teachers and or parents have students memorize a bunch of these big English words. I notice that a lot of the times a student crams these words into their head, or they just memorize the definition and then a week later they either forget about them or they don't even know how to use them in a sentence. For more advanced students, I have them learn at least 3 to 5 good words per week that I know they can use. Instead of memorizing the definition, I have them create sentences with the words.
I do this because in the real world, when we speak another language, we won't be reciting definitions. We'll be using the word in a sentence.
I love your accent. Say it again. Vocabulary.
One thing that I get asked about a lot and that I see people imitating all the time is the American accent. And when I first came here, they're like, how do you do your accent? And I'm like, I don't have an accent. And they're like, yeah, you do. And then I realized, oh my God, I have an accent. I don't teach accents, like that's not my area of expertise. But what I do know is that some people can pick up an accent really fast and others take a little bit of a longer time, and that's okay. My advice to you would be just to get the language down first, and if you get the accent with it along the way, then fantastic. If not, then you can learn a little bit later. It's not a big deal as long as you can speak the language and get by with your day. Along with workbooks and speaking, there are a few other things I like to do to make my class a little bit more exciting.
The first thing is that I draw for my students. Actually, quite a few of them like drawing and designing, and personally, I like learning by looking at pictures. When we can learn words through pictures instead of just black and white definitions, I think we are more likely to remember them. The second thing I like to do is read them poems and short stories. My favorite poems come from Shel Silverstein. They have been my favorite since I was a child, and even my older students love them. The third thing is playing Scrabble. Believe it or not, my students learn some good vocab from this game, and they also get to practice their spelling. So we do this about once a week, once or twice a week, depending on how much time we have and what the lesson plans are, and they really enjoy this. Last, but definitely not the least, is the game of charades. I have the app on my phone, it is easily accessible, and my students love it. They actually do learn a lot of vocab, and we have a lot of fun playing this on the weekends, and it is definitely a treat for them.
The last thing is to use the language outside of the classroom, not just during the class. If I were to ask my students if they use English outside of the classroom, 99% of them would say no. And this is where we run into problems, because when you learn a language, you're supposed to be speaking it as much as you can. That way it stays in your brain. I always remind my students to watch TV shows in English, listen to English music, read books in English, even if it's like a baby book in English. It'll help you remember the language so much better. I read like what? I have like 10 Korean books that are Disney for kids. And this may seem silly, but it really helps. Being here in the Philippines has really showed me how important knowing a language is. I would tell myself that language is important, but now I know really how important it is. And when I would ask my classmates, who are now my friends, but when I would ask them, like, why didn't they talk to me before in the beginning, they would always say, like, oh, I was scared that my English wasn't perfect and I was scared that you would laugh at me. And honestly, I would never think of such a thing like that. But learning a language myself, I understand where that fear can come from. But personally, at the end of the day, for me, like, just speak the language, because we just need to understand each other, we need to communicate, and that's what's most important. I'm not gonna just be like, hey, your grammar is not right. I'm not gonna be friends with you, or I'm not gonna make fun of you for that. So as long as we can understand each other, that's what's most important to me. With all of that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to leave any comments or questions below, and I will see you next time. Bye!